Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 3 of our Mint CXO Dialogues series on global capability centers titled GCCs Enablers of a Future Ready Organization. I'm Rodra Bhattacharya from the Hindustan Times, and in today's session, we will learn how global capability centers are enabling their parent organizations to pivot in the new normal. As organizations across the globe struggle with the economic aspects of COVID-19 pandemic, it is also a time to see how they can become ready for an uncertain future. One of the areas which in the recent past have helped organizations scale up are global capability centers. India, in fact, is home to more than 50% of the GCCs in the world, which generates employment for around 4 million people. For today's discussion, I have with me 4 esteemed thought leaders who will be sharing their insights with us on this topic. Welcoming to our show, Mr. Rohan Salecha, Associate Director for Financial Control at Macquarie Group, Mr. Hani Babu, Chief Information Officer, KPMG in India, Mr. Satya N. Shah, Vice President, Head of Global Business Services, India, Bain and Company, and Mr. Mint Executive Vice President, IMEA, and rest of the world at anyway. To our audience, if you do have any questions, please share them in the comment. We will take them towards the end of the session. Without further ado, let's get started with our discussion. My first question is for Mr. Jha. Where GCCs were a decade ago, from a cost center to a strategic partner today, tell us about this sort of transition, this change in how GCCs are seen, and what has been significant in that.
Great. Thanks, Rodra, for having me on the show. Really excited to be sharing the stage with all the eminent panelists and having a great discussion today. Yes, we talk about GCC or the Global Capability Center. A lot of people use GIC or the in-house captives, shared services, the different names that we have put to that. Again, GCC is, it's not a new phenomenon. We all know that the GCCs have existed for more than 2 decades now. And as it started, several years ago, it used to be pure cost center. And also, it used to just provide the cost savings as we all know of. But as time progressed, I think, every growing organization realized that there's more value that GCCs can, offer. There's a broader full potential that can be achieved by GCCs. So what that needs is a holistic approach, starting with the strategy. And over the period of time, starting from just cost savings, now it has become a core pillar of every organization's growth. And I think we'll be talking about a lot of that today. But I also wanted to bring up one point, which is about why the GCCs sort of fell short of achieving its full potential, because that's important to understand as the GCCs grow. And there are 2 reasons primarily. So one is that the CXOs of the world really feel that the GCCs are not adding enough value. It's not about cost savings, but it's not adding enough value beyond these cost savings. And number 2 is that the support is often too narrow, right? So successful companies are now looking to accelerate their profitable growth, and they need to share this expertise across organization to do that. So now we think about capability centers being critical asset to the company instead of just a cost-saving mechanism for any organization. So as we talk about that, and we discuss shared services, now basis our research, what we have started, using is that we call it share smarter and serve better approach. So basically what that means is, understanding what customers want and then how you serve them. And this is going beyond just, put a couple of heads in a low cost geography and save some money. So what we need to understand as GCCs is that, when our internal customers talk about high levels of performance, which is speed, quality, insight, simplicity, and they're talking about digital capabilities. They're talking about automation, analytics, mobility, and they also want partnership when it comes to taking the P&L plus balance sheet benefits. So that's about what the GCCs need to solve for.
Right.
And when we talk about serving better, it's about how. So we need to have agile ways of working, global talent availability and customer centricity to solve for some of these. So you need to treat your internal customers as well as external customers. So I wanted to set this context in terms of the potential is unlimited as GCCs grow beyond a cost centered approach.
Right. I wanted to come to Mr. Salecha for my next question. Mr. Salecha, can you hear us? I think you're having some connectivity issues. Fine.
Yeah, I had some trouble. Now it's fine. Yeah, it's
Okay.
fine.
Yes, sir. So, request if you could keep your camera on a landscape mode because we can sort of fill the screen a little better.
Sure, sure. Just
Yes. Um,
sorry for the trouble. Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is for you, and I just wanted to sort of understand from your perspective at Macquarie and previously, what are some of the examples where GCCs have helped their parent organizations manage their costs better? I mean, are there some things, some anecdotes that you could speak of?
Right, absolutely. So I've been part of this industry, been with JKS and been with RBS, HSBC for quite some time, and been in the industry for almost 20 years now. Seen those teams, the centers grow from scratch to now being strategic partners. So. I've been part of the few of the pilot projects wherein the parent organizations
Right.
came to India to see what India's got to offer, the infrastructure, the connectivity, people, the language, the culture, the regional biases, the political instability in India. So I've seen them grow. And now over the course of time, when it started almost 10, 15 years back, it was more of a delivery center to do basic operations and basic kind of jobs, right? But over the year, we've grown as more of a partners which would be giving not just cost arbitrage but a value arbitrage. So they've been sectors. If I talk about specifically from the banking world, we've seen those initial basic operations and data entry jobs now to coming to a lot of high-end jobs like reg reporting, stat reporting, analytics, giving them real insights on to the trading teams and kind of helping them work on the business side where the real business team sits and giving them insights for the real world operations. So I've seen that happening over the course of time. So and over the course of time, it has not just been cost arbitrage. Right? It has more been it's been more it's starting from JKS, JKX, Genpact, Amex, and other biggies. Right? It has become more of a hub of the expertise and talent pool what we have here. And in addition to this, now GCs have moved a step up now. They are the center to develop the skills of the future, which is data analytics, data science, risk management, and all those things, right? And if I talk about my organization, we do participate a lot with the global counterpart on kind of reinventing the business models, what should be a right business model for them to go ahead and kind of pitch it to the clients and customers, and in addition to this, the kind of talent pool, the fungibility, the dynamic approach what we have in terms of the workforce, the way we hire, the quickly we hire, the quickly we reskill and upskill people. So that is what stands out, and that is definitely helping a lot of global banking giants, including likes of Macquarie, HSBC, Wells Fargo, your SocGen, and all those things. Yeah.
Right. Really interesting. So what I hear is GCCs in India, because of the talent pool available and the talent pool developed over time, have been able to sort of move up the value chain, and now we are sort of handling mission critical operations, so to say, for I mean, especially the financial sector, right? I mean, very highly dependent on security, expertise, etc. Mr. Babu, just wanted to bring you in here. What has changed? India has always been the offshoring sort of center for many capabilities, but now we are moving up the value chain to do several critical operations, especially financial sector, right? I mean, for a global financial sector, this is very important. What has changed in the past few years for this to happen?
So I think rather I think let me just take a step back in terms of the two sides to the overall proposition when it comes to the GCC models. One is obviously the demand side, and second is the supply side, right? So I mean, in the current situation, obviously things have changed in comparison to what it was, let's say, a few months back. Certainly, I think in last few months, what we have seen is the very mindset around how GCCs are important for some of the large multinationals who are sitting out of, let's say, US, UK, or wherever, right? I mean, across the world. How they are supporting the parent organization, and especially on the demand side, if you look at, let's say, the organization themselves are going through a lot of, I would say, issues related to or they're relooking at their own business models considering the local challenges related to the pandemic or any specific business issues that they're facing, right? I think the overall global operating model that they've been looking at, I think that itself is influencing a lot in terms of what is coming to the supply side, which is the GCC side, right? They're relooking at, let's say, how much I can keep onshore, how much I do push it to offshore, or they're evaluating what should be the service delivery footprint that we should look at from a GCC perspective. And possibly as organizations are getting more intrinsic in terms of customer journey, right? I think there's more alignment towards how customers are demanding and what sort of customer demands are there. How do you meet all of them? I think that's where a bit of a shift is coming. Second is it doesn't stop at the business, but also if you look at the business impact analysis in terms of financial risk or the customer service improvement that organizations are trying to do, or there are financial crimes and frauds that are happening in different spaces. I think the work that is related to address all of that needs to be addressed by someone, obviously with more efficiency at lower cost. And again, that the cost management aspect obviously comes into play, where we are really trying to some of these organizations are really trying to do IT cost optimization or working capital optimization. So I think technically what we are saying is three key pillars that are driving the demand side, which is revisiting the global operating model itself considering the current pandemic. Second is the overall business impact analysis, which is the way the businesses are changing, and the overall cost pressures that typically most of the organizations are doing. And on the supply side, from a GCC perspective, I think there are three things that are really driving that particular change. One is obviously the way the workforce, I think we have just seen the other two panelists have covered, right? The workforce itself is changing in terms of that the human capital that is building up, the talent that is building up. I think that's one key area that I would say. Second is the compliances piece, right? So I think there's a lot of pressure because of the demand that is coming from this the demand side. The supply side, which is more thinking about how do we continue to provide these services to the parent organization? How do we manage the tax and regulatory compliance concerns that are there? How do you really look at business continuity? I mean, when the pandemic happened, people really rushed everybody to their home. So are we able to give the similar kind of services when you are working from home, right? I think some of those challenges obviously GCCs are managing. And third one, which is the main pillar which is driving the efficiency in GCC is the technology optimization, right? I think as we've just heard about the technology that is kind of getting into GCCs. It's just not about providing some data entry job or whatever, right? I think it's going beyond. It's about AI. It's about analytics or risk management. I think all the services that are there that are required to be done by GCCs. I think that is being done efficiently because of the talent pool that is available. So I think in a way I would say three pillars again here. One is the workforce transformation. Second is compliances as well as the technology leveraging the technologies for GCCs.
Very interesting. I think a lot of interesting points there. But before I come to Mr. Sheth, I think you spoke about technology and automation of core processes is an area where GCCs have always had a clear advantage. How far are we from a fully automated GCC? Mr.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So I think as I mentioned earlier, right? So far the idea was to provide a type of a service, but I think with the adoption of the emerging technologies, primarily on AI, analytics, ML, cloud, what's been happening is there's more that is getting shifted to GCCs, right? And I think somewhere GCCs also have realized that adding people to a particular process, obviously you're able to fulfill the job, but I think the efficiency you won't be able to get, right? You're not able to get the precision. You're not able to get cost optimization. I think, as I said, the third pillar, which is the technology leveraging, right? If you're leveraging the technology efficiently, I think that's an area which I think most of the GCCs are looking at. I think one of the key technologies that most of these guys are looking at is intelligent automation, right? So some of the processing, like your data processing jobs or accounts receivables, payables, I think there's heavy intervention of intelligent automation there. I think that's what, at least in last few years, we have seen the adoption in that particular space. So I think the idea is, as I said, the more you optimize your process, instead of throwing people to a process, if you're throwing technology and adding some intelligence there from a people perspective, I think those are getting more efficient, and that's what is giving more comfort to the parent organization, because from a compliances point of view, are more clear. I mean, there's a job that is being done by a GCC or a capability center which is sitting in India. If it's doing with more precision, that's number one. Second part, I think most of the GCCs are focusing now is on the security. I think we are talking about cross-border security issues. We are talking about data localization. We are talking about data normalization. I mean, minimization, to be more precise. Okay, so I think we are seeing all of that. I think security is becoming more important, especially with the new regulations coming like GDPR, and now India we have the data privacy laws coming in. Right. So I think some of those factors are really driving, and that's what I was referring to the earlier point. The compliances are getting more stringent, right? And they are getting stringent for different. I mean, it's a multinational; they could be present in different countries. So all the laws have to be kind of taken care by a GCC which is sitting in the country, right? So I think some of those obviously challenges are there, and without technology, you can't really manage all of that.
So, Mr. Sheth, sorry, there's some noise. Mr. Sheth, just wanted to come to you. Mr. Babu, about some of the processes where automation has already sort of played a key role, invoice processing, etc. Now, what are the other areas where you feel that important to GCCs, where automation is yet to break substantial ground and has a very strong role to play in sort of looking at the entire process in a very different and a very efficient sort of light?
See, I think the digital transformation, in our view, has basically three elements and three areas where you need to transform. I think Mr. Babu mentioned about the back offices, and in back office doing automation to drive productivity, because that's what the GCCs are, if I may say, are really the centers of productivity for their parent organizations. I think the two areas where probably there is still work to be done is what I would call it as the data led or a document led processing in a big way, and which is very IP and a domain centric. Just a simplest example I can talk about is that, let's say, your mortgage processes, a mortgage docket. If a mortgage GCC is processing in India, or it could be any of the gentlemen here in their organizations are processing a docket of 80, 90, 100 documents, which comes either in a physical or a digital form. There is a significant workforce which is put today in extracting that data, classifying that data, and then eventually processing that data. Now that's what I would call it as a cognitive bots, which is yet to kind of take in a bigger shape. So I think I see that as a big opportunity where the folks are not really spending time in extracting, classifying. That's done by the bots, and then you focus on the underlying patterns and trends. The third area, which I think has been taken very well, Rudra, is the what I would call it as the front office, or folks who interact with the customers. Could be technical help desk, could be contact centers, could be, and automating there. Because I think if you really kind of step back from automation as a discussion, in our mind, we are trying to do only two things. Either there is a productivity improvement, or there is an experience improvement, customer experience, supplier experience. And what do you mean by that? Experience improvement is that you're trying to cut down that time, engage, give more time for engagement and relationship and conversations, which really allows you. So I see that back office, as Mr. Babu rightly and even earlier Satya mentioned rightly, that has been kind of adopted as a normal here, even before COVID, and in COVID has, if not anything, has just accelerated that journey. Whereas the front office and those cognitive, or lack of any other word, data-driven automation or significant document-driven automation, I think that's the next stage of over the next 2-3 years, where hopefully there'll be a lot more development and competency building, within the GCC community here.
Interesting. So not only cost and efficiency, but experience. I think that's a critical thing that you did mention. Customers as well as partners internally. Mr. Jha, bringing you in here, and this question is about the workforce. Mr. Babu touched upon it among the 3 points that he mentioned. But with COVID-19 redefining the rules of work, and for GCCs with a huge sort of workforce and strict mandatory security requirements, how have the HR requirements from the workforce changed in the last year, and how are companies sort of managing this? And I mean, I would also like Mr. Salecha to sort of comment on this after you.
Sure. I think that's a great question, Shodra, if you ask me, because I think GCCs need to get better at managing PPTs. And by PPTs, I don't mean PowerPoint, but I mean people, process, and tools. Most certainly, HR is a great enabler when it comes to people side of the equation, right? And they have gone through a lot of changes due to this turbulence in COVID-19 times. And in fact, every organization which needed to sort of adapt to this changing time also needed to adapt new tools and new capabilities. And that's where HR is coming into play big time, because they are the talent engines for GCCs, and they can help build a talent destination for the broader company, if you really ask me. And as we are talking about automation and GCC's value add, I think HR has a key role to play, and they can most certainly work on improving recruitment processes, for example, because talent is going to be the driving force, right? They need to work with businesses and partner with them to understand their needs better. And so what they have been doing in COVID-19 times is, focusing on employee engagement initiatives, because culture is a very important aspect of any organization, whether it's a GCC or not. And so they have been adapting, to that fairly well, and that is the need of the time as well. I think I also wanted to touch upon, not just the HR side of things, but the sort of skill requirements that we have from employees, right? So they also need to understand and the needs of the organization as they're working from home. How do they meet some of those expectations of the organization in terms of productivity, their availabilities, and use the technology to do that? So yes, I mean, HR has been at the forefront of supporting any organization, and it still needs to go a long way, because now we are talking about new sort of skills that employees need to have to cater to the growing demand of the parent organization, which takes us back to one of the previous questions, saying, okay, how do you serve your parent organization in this changing need? You need to change your skill, acquire new skills, and that's where HR is really playing a key role in terms of making sure your existing talent is trained on the new skills of automation, whether it's AI, ML, or whatever have you, and also sort of partnering with your ecosystem to get the talent that you may not have in-house. So I think that's very critical in terms of how things have changed for HR and how they are helping the organizations today.
Interesting. I think nobody can really, the HR's role today is extremely tough, extremely challenging in this environment. There's pressure from all sides, the management, people. But you touched upon a very important aspect of culture. Now, I wanted to also get the angle from Mr. Salecha about how his company has and the financial sector has dealt with the workforce challenge at this critical time. Much of your workforce will be working from home. There's security, there's tech enablement. A lot of these are coming into play. So, what is your view on this? Yeah, Mr. Salecha. Yeah.
Right. So I think majority of can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I think majority of the banking sector, right, just to avoid any disruption in their trading activities or the activities wherein they get out and interact with the markets or the clients. So they started pretty early. So even when we started working from home across the globe, across the globe in India or Indian GCCs. The banking sector started almost a month ahead of it, right? So we started testing all those tools and security networks, all the connectivity and everything before even the actual work from home started in GCCs in India. So most of the GCCs had defined or amended their agile working policies to align with the new norms, right? Enabling their workforce to work remotely, stay closely connected, even if they were sitting in their different time zones or different cities, and maintain service delivery levels. So HR's role has not just been recruitment and kind of devising policies and compensation and payroll. It has grown beyond what it was. It was the regular HR kind of role, right? So now it is with the now growing focus on managing and monitoring productivity and effectiveness in this new remote working environment, and along with that, balancing the employee wellness as well, right? So HR in our organization and a couple of more organizations I know, they played a very good role in kind of making sure that employees remain mentally and physically fit all through this journey what we had last 6 months to 7 months, right? In addition to this, the employee engagement and learning formats, right, they've changed drastically. It used to be one-to-one classroom kind of trainings, classroom kind of setups. Now this has witnessed surge in online content, right? Online content consumption. People have gone from face-to-face learning now to completely online learning. So getting an aggregator in place, getting the content, relevant content, and keeping it absolutely fresh as per the new skills and new needs, that is important. That is another important area which HR has kind of contributed a lot in last few months. While working from home, the thin line of where the office starts and where the home office ends, and where do you cut the line? When you leave office, you get to your home, right? You stop the office. So the thin line is the line between home and office is now not there anymore. So HR is kind of has played a pretty good role in kind of defining that line for us, though, and setting that expectation with all the global teams that this, even if you're working from home, that ends here at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever the time zone is, right? So and rightly said, and along with that, HR is also kind of re-examining their promotion, the compensation, along with the incentive structures, right, which have come in place because of this COVID pandemic. So our organizations and RBS and SHBC, they've kind of helped people, they've kind of monetized people to set up the home offices with big monitors, internet connectivity, ergonomic chairs, a lot of UPS and everything. So that is all. This whole setup was kind of facilitated by HR. So in a way, the HR role has pretty much grown in last 7 months, and they've done a pretty good job of it as of now.
Interesting. So HR has become a lot more significant across many companies today. I mean, this is really a people crisis at the end of the day. Mr. Sheth, coming to you. I mean, so you know, automation does require upskilling of employees to be able to handle these technologies, right? So apart from assisting in domain-related work, how do you look at upskilling of employees in this situation and as we sort of go forward? Uh, and will this also help in creating more employment?
I think one of the things which the world, at least the way I see it from a services point of view, and very much applicable in GCC, is that, and it's a more of a statement, but I'll say it and then try and explain that the process folks have to learn technology, and then technology folks have to understand business. Probably technology always understood business a bit, but the process team never adopted technology as an enabler. So one of the one of the areas where to your larger question, that the multi-skill, multi-dimensional skill set is something which in GCC is becoming common. And one of the area where we see a huge uptake of our online courses, we have a university where the number of courses which are being downloaded or being attended to has really gone up substantially. So that's one aspect of the of the skill set. The second aspect of the skill set, and nowadays in the Indian context, the smaller kids are being kind of incentivized to code, and but the reality is that that's on the lighter side. But if you see that our professionals' ability to build logic in what they do and improve that constantly either using automation as a tool or it could be even a process improvement. I think it's become so integral that I go back to 15 years back as somebody has G and G's word was used here. Six Sigma was considered as the skill, and frankly, that Six Sigma has completely replaced that your ability to code and build a small piece of code, no code, low code, or an automation code, whatever word you use. But I think that's become an absolutely must-have skill, and we see that in GCC. And then the last point I think I would make in this is that while you code and while you automate a lot of tasks which you would have ideally done it yourself, let's say a pre automation era, what you need to start learning is remote collaboration, ability to have empathy when you're engaging with your customers or internally. I think those are the skills GCCs fortunately have spent a fair bit of time on, but even you need to take it one notch higher. Given that a lot of work can be done by machine. So in summary, every process person will have to have some knowledge of tools and technologies which will help them excel and help, to Satya's very first point, where capability centers will start beyond that just the cost play to the larger value play. So that's kind of my response.
Got it. Mr. Jha, you wanted to add on the skills point.
Sure. I mean, I think Milan has actually addressed it fairly, thoroughly. But I just wanted to take this question sort of head on from what you expect from employees' point of view too. And so, I mean, employees need to think about investing in retooling themselves to stay relevant. I mean, gone are those days where serve them for the most part of their professional career, right? You become an engineer and you're good for like next 30 years doing what you do. That's not the time now. And I think while the generalist skills are still valid and it's bringing a lot of value, I think organizations are now focusing on becoming very specific and niche and trying to bring specialist skill set to the table. And when we talk about automation, I think it is high time that employees thought about learning things like coding, as Milan was saying, machine learning, AI, and not just limiting to that, also thinking about learning Tableau, Alteryx, Python. I mean, those who are in this area, of course, somebody who is not into programming and automation, they don't have to worry about that. But that is the need of the time, and I think people should think about reskilling and retooling themselves when it comes to automation.
And that is really true across industries, right? Because I mean, the time it's not only for GCCs, automation, etc. I mean, you have to keep reinventing yourself. Mr. Babu, my last question for today is to you, and this is really a little broader question. So, welcome. I mean, asking others, other panelists to also contribute. Are more companies looking to switch to a GCC model, and what are the biggest, challenges or the pros for this? I mean, moving to a GCC model at this time, and when we have such major benefits for global operations.
So I think, Rodra, I kind of mentioned that a while ago, right? I think most of the companies are. I think that they've been on this model for quite a while. I think people have seen ups and downs in this model. Certainly, I think there's been learning around various aspects, right? Starting from purely people doing the job to technology getting added to it, then security coming into play, and then a few people had some security related issues, and then you strengthening those things. Then you bring in more automation, then you bring in intelligent automation. I think people are evolving, right? I think there are geopolitical challenges that typically continue to play a lot of role. But I think, to my mind, GCCs will continue to play stronger. I think purely from I think 2 or 3 aspects. I would say one is, I think especially from an India perspective, you see that the talent hub is. I mean, we have a great talent hub, right? We starting from whether you've done engineering or you've done BCom or you've done BA. I think GCCs have been able to absorb each and every one and then possibly train them and keep them ready. That's number one. Number two, I think just on the earlier point in terms of skill set development, right? So I think people are becoming more and more, I would say, smart enough to understand that what's the future like, from a capability perspective that they need to invest in. I think there are some challenges, especially from a legacy perspective. Let's say if there are older people who've been, when I'm saying older, there are certain amount of time that are spent in various businesses. Obviously, there'll be some resistance there, but as you make them understand that it's important to stay relevant. I mean, just to give you a perspective, let's say there's a financial, let's say a person who's doing the job in a finance department, and he does reconciliation, nothing beyond that. Let's say in a GCC, right? The best is to kind of simply have that role being done by a robot, right? I mean, you'll find initially some bit of resistance in that why my job is getting replaced by a robot. But I think somewhere you need to have that conversation with them, saying that if you continue to do what you're doing, what will happen after 4 years, right? There'll be more robots who are going to be coming and doing the job. I think making them aware. I think that kind of a mindset obviously is coming in very, very, very fast, right? I think keeping some of these aspects in mind, and then the third piece, which is again on, I would say, compliances and primarily in an environment like this where you need to stay compliant. I think it's going to go a little hot and cold for some time, but to my mind, is going to strengthen further because the efficiencies that most of the parent organizations are getting, primarily using technology. I think that's my take. I think we will definitely see an upswing in this particular domain, primarily for the processes. But as I said, some of the geopolitical challenges. I mean, you have an election happening somewhere, and then suddenly jobs will go back, and then again you'll have jobs coming back. I think all of that you'll see cyclical changes, but certainly I'm seeing that from an efficiency perspective, this will continue to go long.
Interesting. I mean, I think you were the first person in this conversation to mention the geopolitical challenges of GCCs, and that's very true. The elections that are around the corner. It's not an easy call, but for most businesses that have seen the benefits, I think there is be a shift. Mr. Sheth, Mr. Jha, Mr. Lecha, any comments on that? What are the industries? Which are the companies you feel that are sort of looking at GCCs as a model of business more aggressively? Based on the success they've already seen for us.
Sure, Roger. I mean, again, so but I want to take a step back and share something that Sorry.
Please go on. Please.
Yeah. So I mean, what we did is recently working with NASSCOM, we had done sort of a survey for CXOs, top 30 CXOs of the world and big companies, and also some 80, leaders of the GICs in India. And what we figured in that survey response is that most organizations are absolutely wanting to move towards GCC model. I mean, majority of those, as we talked about, there are 1,100 plus GCCs in India already, and cost benefit is something that they have already got from setting up the operations. Now, most organizations, what they're thinking about is that taking it beyond that, beyond cost arbitrage, and using them as strategic partners. So over next 3 to 5 years, what these CXOs and GIC heads are looking at is that GCCs need to play, and they must play an active role in the top of mind investment priorities of the enterprise. And fortunately, on that dimension, 90% of GCC leads agree with these thoughts too. So that's a great marriage happening there. You asked about what's the biggest inhibitors and influencers also of this. I think that's a great question because cost savings and highly scaled talent, that's been no-brainer. Those two have been the highest influencers, and that is where India got its own advantage, right? For time immemorial, we have been leading because of that. But also the other sort of influencers we see is quality, consistency. You cannot spike and then fall down on your quality of people. So that is definitely another influencer that we need to keep in mind, that as you become the top-notch GCC in the world, you don't let go of your quality because you're producing more people who are doing that. The inhibitor side of things, the biggest challenge that we see is that as the model changes, I mean the operating model changes, the governance model needs to be defined very well. right? And so there is sort of a challenge with business owners feel when you talk about some of the work moving from one part of the world to the other part of the world. And I'm not talking about offshoring purely. I'm just saying it's a change in the business model, right? So that's one of the challenges. Business owners agreeing to this new way of working, right? And the second thing that we see is that a lot of times organizations just think about the G&A, right? And they say, okay, G&A cost saving done, but they are not thinking about giving the GCCs the mandate to go beyond that, and for a variety of reasons, we can get into. So now, that focus of generating revenue, capital, and cash, that needs to be given a lot of attention, within the organization leadership, and then partnering, right? So that can be a strong enabler, but also a strong inhibitor if you don't partner with your own internal customers to take it to the next level.
Very, very interesting. I think the enablement aspect is significant. I mean, BCCs can play a role in improving processes, etc. They need to be given the capability to do so. Mr. Salecha, you had sorry, you were saying something at that point. Would you want to add to this?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So from in addition to what Mr. Satya and Mr. Harnath have said, so I think from the supply side as well, now the stigma, the apprehensions of joining a back office or GCC has gone away now, right? People from big technology institutes, tier A and B MBA colleges, and I think people from all the walks of life, they are kind of ready to join and kind of be part of this successful story, right? So that has drastically changed in the last 10 years. And second thing is now GCCs have started mimicking the culture of the parent organization now, which wasn't there 10 years back. The GCCs used to have their separate culture running in India, and parent used to have a different culture altogether. But that landscape has completely changed. Now we mimic the same culture, same policies, the way people are treated across the board, and everything is now very similar to the parent organization. So that's why people
that's a great point.
on the
That's a great
supply
point.
side are more keen to join these organizations. So from the workforce side, we see a lot of
So please go on. Sorry, I think there's a lag.
That was one thing. And second thing is the GCC has now become, yeah. And second thing is GCCs have become experiment because of their frugal nature or the dynamic kind of environment the GCCs operate in, the workforce we have and the young, fresh minds. So they've become an experimentation ground for the parent organizations whenever a new technology comes in. I can talk about my organization. So any new technology which is being kind of picked up by the parent organization, the first thing where they're tested, they are kind of put on the ground to be tested or be used by any user. That is GCC here in India. And then it kind of goes and scales up to the parent organization or anywhere in the world. So it has become a ground wherein people can experiment as well, get results, and then replicate to the bigger world, right? So those are the few things which definitely have become which definitely would attract a lot of other organizations. And I see moving as of now delivering just from delivering cost arbitrage or some initial set of operations, the financial sectors especially will go up the value chain now. So GCC will be more strategic partners in kind of guiding them, analytics, risk management, all that stuff. So that's I see that happening as of now. And post COVID, we've proved, for example, my organization, we thought of that year-end close would be the biggest task for us for the financial accounting world. And we proved that that can be done remotely. And that was the big giant proof of what GCCs can do even remotely. So that's a big success story. And now the confidence of the parent organization has grown multifolds now. So we've grown up the value chain. We know what's going to come our way now, and we're kind of getting up for that new future now.
Wonderful. Mr. Sheth, please, your comments on this.
I think Rohan touched on it, so I will just simply expand on it with data that India versus Philippines versus Eastern Europe, Latin America, and some of the centers. If you talk to organizations across the world, and one of the biggest things which came out during pandemic is that the adaptability and the both on the people side as well as our infrastructure, Rohan used the word frugal innovation. I think has been exemplary. So the data we get from our customers, which are already in India they're talking about scaling up this model. Those who are not in India are looking at it very, very eagerly. And frankly, Babu touched on the geopolitical element on that. I think if you really see all of that, probably 2021, if I may say that, could be that year where you will see many, many more large number of GCCs being expanded or being set up. That's what all the indications are telling us from talking to range of customers across the world.
And just to add to what just Milind said, and I think Satya also mentioned. I think three important aspects that are driving the GCC, build in India is the resilience. I would say resilience, continuity, and efficiency. Right. So from a resilience perspective, if you look at the earlier availability pre-COVID, and considering the new normal, I think the availability obviously has been doubly assured. I think the confidence levels have gone up from an availability perspective, right? And continuity of experience. Let's say if you had a completely lockdown in the current organization for, let's say, because of the local challenges due to the pandemic, you could have an alternate location which was really supporting your clients as well as employees. I think that's another area which obviously is making sure that the GCC is going stronger. And third, I think while we've been all debating about productivity gains and the challenges, in terms of employee health and well-being, etc. But somewhere I think most of the organizations have realized that the productivity has actually gone up more than 100% in the current scenario. So I think these three, I would say, key aspects obviously are also going to be driving a lot of GCC, model strengthening within the country. I mean, that's what I just kind of want to share.
That's great point, Renat. Just another thing, as we are talking about automation, and I know Milan also touched upon this. At GCCs, I think you had asked Rodra another question about, how far are we on automation? And I just want to bring us back to that point that, we have just only scratched the surface, if you really ask me, on the automation side. And thanks to COVID, most organizations have really started, thinking about it. And so now most of the organization who were probably spending 20% of their IT budget on any new thing, now they're spending 40% of it in innovation and automation, right? And that's how we are having this conversation. But I think there's a lot of potential if we talk about GCCs, whether it's advanced analytics, whether it's predictive analytics, whether it's personal assistant bots that Milan was talking about, automating HR and finance processes. There's just dearth of opportunities that are going to be created within GCCs. And now the parent organizations are looking at GCCs to do that value add instead of just transactional work. So I think that's really important from India point of view, that we can provide that value to our parent organizations as GCCs. Back to you, Roger.
Sorry, I realized I was on mute. So, no, I was saying essentially what you're saying, right? Never waste a good crisis, and clearly most of our companies have shown that. And the resilience aspect, I think nearly everybody touched upon it. That has been significant. It really shows that it's not about necessarily only about cost. Cost play a significant role, but it's about the people. There's a reason why 50% of GCCs globally is in India, right? I mean, clearly, this is a great example. Thank you. I think we have had a great chat today. A lot of interesting points as well. This is the third episode of our series on GCCs. That brings us to the end of our discussion. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to especially thank our guest speakers for taking the time out to share their valuable insights with us. A big shout out to Automation Anywhere for partnering with us for this wonderful series. This is us signing off. Stay well and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.